Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, Unit 1.2 Notes, Day 3. Today our learning target is to be able to solve multi-step linear equations. So if you are asked to solve an equation, remember the two things we got to do is clean up each side, whether we have to distribute or combine like terms, and then to use the inverse operations, which is SADMAP, the reverse order of operations. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to solve the following linear equations. And to remember, we're going to show all of our work. Now, if some of you like to work ahead of me, in red, I wrote down the answers, so you can do that, okay? But let's go ahead and get started. So, number one, I'm going to draw my line right down the middle so I can see both sides. Now, I'm not sure what to do here, so I always like to write things in standard form first. So all I'm going to do is rewrite. I have a negative x out front minus 2. Okay, and now I can kind of see what I need to do. I've got a negative 2, or subtracting 2, so I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is add, and I get 21 equals negative x. Okay, now I can't just drop that negative sign out there because technically that's a negative 1, and that's multiplication, and the inverse of multiplication is division, and that's where we get negative 21 equals x. All right, number 2. Once again, I'm going to draw the line down the middle. And this is the same thing as the previous one where it's written out of order. So I'm going to bring that negative 5x out front, and that is a positive 9 equals 24. And now this kind of really shows me what I need to do. So I'm going to do the inverse, which is subtract. And then I get 15. And to get the x by itself, I need to divide by negative 5. And we get x equals negative 3. All right, number 3. Doing the reverse order of operations, the first thing I get rid of is addition. And I do that with subtraction. So then we get negative 12 equals x over negative 4. And now my last step right here is multiplication because we're dividing right now. The opposite of division is multiplication. And negative 4 times negative 12 gives us a positive 48. All right, moving on down. Okay, number 4. Let's do inverse operation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 9 to both sides. And we get negative 1/5 x equals 15. Okay, and right here we need to multiply by the reciprocal, I'm sorry. So those guys cancel, that 15 is over 1. Okay, our denominator is going to be 1 because there's no numbers down there, so we just need to multiply straight across. 15 times negative 5 gives us negative 75. Okay, number 5. Now, if you need to, we can rewrite this, okay? But what type of 8 is that? Is that a positive 8 or subtracting 8? Well, it's a positive 8. So if you know right away, like, yo, Mr. Grice is positive, I can just subtract that. By all means, go ahead and do it. You're saving yourself a step, okay? So we're left with 2 over 7x equals negative 12. And now I'm going to multiply, by the reciprocal. So it's 7 over 2. Okay, and if you're doing this without a calculator, we can reduce right there and get x equals negative 42. Okay, now be like, well, Mr. Grice, I used a calculator for that. How do I do that? Okay, so when you're multiplying fractions in the calculator, we have negative 12, and we're timesing that by 7 divided by 2. Now, anytime you're using fractions inside your calculator, I would definitely put them in parentheses. Okay, some of you might have an ABC button or something that can actually input the fractions, but in mine, I have to do it as division. All right, number 6. Why don't you guys go ahead and try that one all on your own. Pause the video, and good luck. Okay, and there's all of my work. So we had to subtract that 5 first because it was a positive 5. Okay, and then multiply the reciprocal of negative 6 over 7 is negative 7 over 6. All right, number 7. Now, this is when we start getting things that are bigger. We need to look to see what our like terms are. Okay, and 1.5 minus 2.5 gives us a negative 1x plus 12 equals negative 4. And now it's just like any other problem, okay? We do the reverse order of operations, SAD map, okay? And then we gotta divide by negative 1. Don't forget about that negative in front of the x, okay guys? It gives you a completely different answer. Okay, 8. Gonna find my like terms and combine them. Negative 9 plus 6 gives me negative 3x minus 5 equaling 16. And now start doing inverse operations. The inverse of subtraction is addition. And the inverse of multiplication is division. Positive 21 divided by negative 3 gives us negative 7. All right, number 9, don't freak out because we got fractions, okay? Now we can either do them in our calculator or off to the side. This one's not too bad, so I'm just going to go 5 over 2 minus 3 over 2. Well, that gives me 2 over 2, which is the same thing as 1. Okay, so we combined our like terms, and then we get 6x plus 1 equals negative 15. I'm going to subtract 1 to both sides, and we get 6x equals negative 16. Okay. Divide both sides by 6. Okay, and you might be like, oh, Mr. Grice, I can reduce that. And yeah, you can. You can divide both the top and the bottom by 2. And we would get negative 8 over 3. Okay, now we can also get a decimal. So we got negative 8 divided by 3. And now we need to round to the second decimal. So I look at the 6 right here, and the 6 tells me that I need to round up. So that would be x is equal, because we rounded it, we use the squigglies, negative 2.67. That would be our other answer. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and flip it over. All right, number 10. 10, we've got parentheses and a number outside. You always look inside to see if you can simplify, which you can't. So then we need to multiply. 5 times 3 is 15, and 5 times 2 is 10. Okay. Inverse operations, we have a positive 15, so I'm going to subtract that to both sides. And we get negative 10x equals negative 50. And then divide both sides by negative 10. And we get x equals positive 5. Okay, just because we have fractions doesn't mean we get to be, I'm skipping it. Okay. Take what's outside and distribute. Okay. We get -4 equals 2/3 x minus, and now we can either just plug this straight into our calculator, 2/3 times 6, or off to the side do the work. Either way, you should get 4. Okay. And I'm going to add 4 to both sides because I want to get the x by itself. And -4 plus 4 is 0. And now my next step is to multiply by the reciprocal. And you should not need to plug that into your calculator because 0 times anything is 0. All right, number 12. Well, we need to distribute. The only question is, what are we going to distribute? Well, there's a negative sign out front, and technically that's a -1. Okay? So that's what we're going to distribute. And when we do that, we get 9x. And the part that we're distributing right there is -1 times 4. We get -4. -1 times 3 is -3x. Okay, and now that we've distributed, now we need to look to see if there are any like terms. 9x minus 3x gives me 6x minus 4. And from here on, you guys should be able to solve it. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do it yourself. Okay, and when you do that, you add 4 to both sides and divide by 6. Now, if you can't tell -4 and -6 or +6, you can divide both of those by 2, and that's where we get -2/3. If you plugged it into your calculator, you should have got -0.6666666666 repeating, and when you round that, you get -0.67. Okay? Okay. Next one. Let's go ahead and on the right side, we need to distribute. So we get -18 equals 2x minus 8 plus 3x. Combine your like terms, and we get -18 equals 5x minus 8. Okay, and then inverse operations, we add 8 to both sides. We get -10 equals 5x, and then divide both sides by 5. And then we get -2 equals x. All right, 2 more problems. Number 14, I want to see if you guys can do this all on your own. You're going to need to distribute, combine like terms, and then use inverse operations to solve. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video, and good luck. Okay, and you get a positive answer of 2. Now the first thing I did was distribute that -2. Okay, right over here. And we get -6 plus 16. I combined the 7 and 16 to get 23. Subtracted 23 to both sides, and then divided by -6. Okay? Now number 15, guys, that's all on you. Okay? You know that the answer is 4. So do that on your own. If you have any questions with that, you can come see Ms. Carranza or myself. And your homework is actually on the bottom of the notes, which is all right here. And all of your answers, they're right there, okay? So if you don't get one of those answers, I'm sorry, but you did something wrong and you need to retry it, okay? Well, that's it for Algebra 1, Unit 1.2, Notes, Day 3. As always, if you have any questions, please come find Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, thanks for watching.